Hi, my name is Mark White and welcome to the second in this series of vlogs on the new features of IBM Planning Analytics. In the previous session we looked at applications and plans, and in this session we're going to take a look at predictive forecasting using statistical algorithms. So let's drop into demo mode and take a look at how it works. Okay, so let's have a look at how to create a predictive forecast using the latest features of IBM Planning Analytics. So we're logged into IBM Planning Analytics, as you can see here, and what you can also see are the various applications and plans that we looked at creating in the previous video. And on this side, what we can see is we have the predictive forecast application that's been pre-built to save us a little bit of time in this demo. So logging on to the application, we can see here that it basically suggests that we select the customers and products that we want to forecast, and then basically use the forecasting icon to define how we want that to work. So what we can do here, to keep things simple, I'm just going to select one product for now and show you how that works. So the product that we've selected on the rows, that will allow us up here to say, okay, let's do a forecast for this one product. Obviously you might want to do lots of products simultaneously. Over on this side, what we have is a screen where we can set up how the forecast works. So here we can see the period that we want to start and the period we want to end. And in fact, if we take a look at this data, you can see that we've got historic data for several years. And then eventually, when we get to period 2020-04, that's where our actual data ends. And therefore, we're predicting from 2020-05 through to 2021-12. So predicting for the rest of the year. We've also chosen to save any statistical details as comments, so we can see how the forecast was calculated. On the advanced tab, there's a few other things that we can set up. So auto detecting seasonality. We can see that it's using the historical data in this cube view in this particular case rather than the cube itself. We can choose to ignore data from specific time periods. So if there's a blip in the forecasting data that you want to ignore, you can choose to ignore those periods. At the moment, I think we probably want to ignore the whole of 2020, to be truthful, because of what happened obviously in the past 12 months. Select your confidence interval for your forecast, and then where you want to save the data. So this is going to get saved into the version dimension, and you can see that I've actually got 3 forecasts that I'm going to save. I've got a high forecast, a low forecast, and a mid forecast that's going to get saved. Now, what we can do before we actually run the forecasting process properly, we could just preview this and see what it's going to do and see whether it's going to meet our requirements. So this is basically going to just show me a preview of what the forecast would look like. So again, we can see the actuals up to the current period, and then we can see the medium, the high, and the low forecast. And the range of confidence within there. So we can see that very clearly and say, yeah, I think that's the sort of thing that we're looking for. And if you have got a statistical background and you want to dig into a little bit more detail to find the algorithms and things that have been applied to create these forecasts, you can dig into that here. And also learning more will take you out to a website where you'll get a lot more detail on the methods that are being used to do the forecast. But having set it up and done a preview, made sure everything's doing what you want it to do, then we can hit the forecast button and let it run properly. So in this case, what it's doing, not only is it calculating the forecast, but it's writing the results back into the cube, into those different versions that I mentioned earlier. So here we're looking at the actuals, but if we were to look at the low forecast, we can see what the low forecast numbers look like. Obviously, the high forecast will be higher numbers, and then the mid forecast is the middle between the two. You can see the commentary in the cells here. Again, this is something that gets stored alongside the forecast to tell you about the accuracy of the forecast and the confidence interval and how it's all been done. And of course, what you could do is if you want to merge together the actuals plus the forecast to get a full trend, you can just create a hierarchy to join those 2 different versions together, and that will give us a total picture. So here we can see the actuals up to the end of period 4, and then we can see the forecast going forward through to 2021-12. So very simple, very easy to use. You don't really need a great deal of training in stats to be able to do this stuff. but obviously if you want to understand the calculations behind it, then obviously it helps. So that's a quick overview on predictive forecasting. Hope you found that useful. In the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the changes that have been made to the user interface. So that's the introduction of the Cognos Analytics charting engine, but also the granularity that you can get to and the definition of every object on the page, whether it's an image or a grid or a chart, the level of refinement you can get to. You're seeing some of this in the demonstrations here with things like the transparent backgrounds and stuff like that. But in the next video, we'll dig into that in a little bit more detail and show you what that's all about. So thanks very much, and see you on the next one.